You think nothing is happening, no message, no reaction, no sign, just quiet. But quiet does not always mean empty. Sometimes it means pressure is building where you cannot see it. Sometimes it means a feeling has been pushed down so many times that it is starting to fight its way back up. While you sit there thinking the distance means the story is ending, something else may be happening behind that calm face. A restless thought, a memory they cannot shake, a tension rising in the chest every time your name crosses the mind and they try to bury it again. Stay with me, because this is where most people misunderstand the silence. They think silence is weakness. They think silence means loss. But when you stop chasing, when you stop explaining, when you stop offering your energy to someone who kept leaning away, the whole balance begins to shift. And that shift can wake up emotions they were comfortable hiding. What looks quiet on the outside can become loud inside them. What feels like nothing can become the start of everything. And once that pressure grows too strong, it does not stay controlled for long. It starts to move, it starts to show, it starts to burn. Right now, you are not running after them. You are not asking for comfort. You are not filling every gap with effort just to keep the bond alive. For the first time, the energy has changed. The person who once took their time, once stayed cold, once acted untouched by distance, is beginning to feel something they cannot easily control. Why? Because they were used to your warmth, used to your care, used to knowing that even if they pulled away, you would still reach across the silence and make it safe again. That safety made them relaxed. Too relaxed. They did not have to face their feelings. They did not have to risk anything. They could stay half present and still keep your attention close. But now there is space where your effort used to be. And space can be dangerous for someone who spends their life avoiding deep emotion. You did not threaten them. You did not beg. You simply took your energy back. And that absence speaks louder than any long message ever could. It makes them replay old conversations. It makes them notice your change in tone. It makes them wonder why you are no longer reacting the same way. And if you have felt invisible, keep listening, because what happens in silence is often stronger than what happens in noise. This is where hidden desire begins to build under the surface. For someone who pulls away from closeness, emotion does not always grow in calm, safe, predictable moments. Sometimes it grows when something important starts to feel uncertain, when they can no longer read you, when they do not know what you are thinking, when they are no longer sure you will always be there. That uncertainty touches something deep. Their pride may say it does not matter. Their habits may push them toward distractions. They may even act colder for a while, but the body often reacts before the ego is ready to admit anything. They check the phone more than usual. They reread old messages. They think about whether you are moving on. They imagine you giving your energy to someone else. And that imagination is not peaceful. It stirs urgency. It sharpens attention. It creates emotional heat. This is important, so do not miss it. What you are seeing is not always instant softness. Sometimes the first sign is tension. Sometimes the first sign is restlessness. Sometimes the first sign is that strange shift where they seem more alert, more curious, more affected than they want to appear. Feel the difference. There is a crack forming in the wall, and once that wall starts to split, everything they push down can begin to rise at once. Most people never understand this part. When you chased, you were protecting them from the full impact of losing you. Your effort kept their fear quiet. Your consistency made sure they never had to sit with the real possibility of your absence. That kept their system calm. But calm is not the same as passion. Calm is not urgency. Calm is not that powerful pull that makes someone step forward and mean it. Silence changes the emotional climate. Silence removes reassurance. Silence removes the easy pattern. Silence creates a question mark, and the human mind hates open questions. It wants answers. It wants clarity. It wants relief. So when your energy is no longer easy to access, their inner world can become louder. They start to feel what your constant presence used to soften for them. They begin to notice how much space you actually filled. And here is the part that hits hard. They may not process these feelings openly. They may not sit down and say, yes, I miss this person. Yes, I care deeply. Yes, I am scared of losing them. No. People who avoid vulnerability often bury emotion until it becomes impossible to ignore. That is why what looks like distance on the outside can turn into intensity later. It does not fade, it concentrates, and when concentrated emotion finally looks for release, it can come out with shocking force. But this is exactly where many people ruin the shift before it becomes real. They sense the energy changing, they feel the attention returning, they notice a small message, a softer tone, a sudden curiosity, and then they rush. They answer too fast, they over-explain, they throw all their feelings forward because they are afraid the moment will disappear, and by doing that they break the tension that was slowly building. Listen carefully, your silence is not about punishment, it is not about games, it is not about trying to trap someone into missing you, it is about returning to yourself, it is about stopping the habit of doing all the emotional work alone, it is about letting the other person feel what your constant effort once protected them from. When you remove the emotional cushion, they finally feel the real impact of your absence. They start remembering your look, your patience, your softness, the way you understood them without demanding too much. They miss the comfort, yes, but they also start to miss the intensity that came with being seen by you. And what is no longer easy often becomes more valuable. Stay with this, because the next part matters even more. The silence is not the end of the story, it is the pressure chamber where truth begins to show its face. There is also something very natural happening here. Attraction often grows through contrast. What was once familiar becomes rare. What was always available suddenly steps back, and the mind reacts. It becomes curious. It starts searching for meaning. Why are you different now? Why are you not reaching? Why does your energy feel calmer, steadier, less attached to their reaction? That shift can pull them in more than any speech ever could. They may test the water, a small text, a casual check-in, a reaction to something simple, a quiet attempt to see if you are still there, still open, still emotionally close enough to return. But now your power is in how you meet that moment, not with coldness, not with desperate excitement, with grounded energy, with warmth that does not chase, with calm that does not beg. Because when they feel that you are no longer desperate for their approval, something changes inside them. For the first time, they feel they may actually have to make an effort. And effort creates investment. Effort deepens focus. Effort makes feelings harder to ignore. This is where they begin to think about the times they pulled away, the walls they kept up, the chances they assumed would always be there. Regret does not always scream. Sometimes it whispers in the middle of the night. Sometimes it sits in the chest as a heavy feeling they cannot explain away. People like this are not emotionless. They are guarded. There is a difference. They often feel deeply, but they fear dependence. They fear needing someone too much. They fear what happens when another person starts to matter enough to shake their control. So when they notice themselves missing you in a way that feels stronger than expected, it can scare them. And fear mixed with longing creates intensity. That is why they may seem distant for a while and then suddenly come forward with surprising force, a late-night message, an unexpected confession, a softer voice, a look that stays a little longer than before, a hunger in their attention that was not there when things felt safe and predictable. And if you are wondering why now, why after so much distance, why after all that cool behavior, the answer is simple. Distance can create clarity. When you were always there, your presence was easy to take for granted. But when you stepped back, the emotional noise became quieter. In that quiet, they could finally hear their own feelings more clearly. They realized your energy was not easy to replace. They realized the connection was not as casual as they pretended. They realized the comfort, the pull, the emotional depth they felt with you was rare. And once that truth lands, urgency often follows, not always immediately, but strongly. Now imagine what is happening inside them when your consistency is no longer guaranteed. They start to picture life without your warmth. They imagine you moving on. They imagine someone else receiving the attention they once assumed would stay available to them. And for a person who built safety around emotional distance, that image can shake the whole structure. Suddenly, what felt optional starts to feel important. What felt manageable starts to feel real. Their messages may change first. Slightly longer, slightly softer, more thought behind them, more intention. They may bring up shared memories. They may ask about details they once ignored. They may show tiny signs of vulnerability they would never have shown when they felt fully in control. Watch the energy, not just the words, because the words may still be careful, but the energy becomes more focused, more invested, more alive. This is where your calm becomes magnetic, not because you are trying to be mysterious, but because you are no longer acting from fear. You are not reacting to every movement. You are not trying to force closeness every second. And that calm confidence can draw them in harder than panic ever could. They begin to feel that access to you may need to be earned now. And once someone feels they could truly lose something real, they stop treating it casually, or at least they struggle to keep pretending that they can. Here is where the emotional pressure starts becoming visible. At first, it may show as curiosity, then as softness, then as a strange kind of focus. They begin watching more closely, listening more carefully, feeling more than they want to admit. The same person who once seemed unaffected may now notice every delay, every pause, every change in your energy. They might feel jealous more quickly, protective in subtle ways, more interested in your day, your time, your plans, your emotional world. And no, that shift does not come from magic. It comes from value being felt after it is no longer handed out so freely. Your silence showed them something that words never could. You can walk away. You can choose yourself. You can stop carrying the connection alone. And that realization can wake up a deep emotional response. This is the part where many people think the sudden intensity means everything is fixed. Not yet. Intensity is a sign. It is not proof. Passion can rise quickly, but true change is shown in consistency. So if they come closer, stay present, stay warm, but do not collapse into old patterns. Let them show who they are when effort is required. Let them reveal whether this is real growth or just a burst of fear at the idea of losing you. And yes, that burst can feel overwhelming compared to the distance that came before. They may speak more openly. They may start conversations they once avoided. They may admit they missed you. They may look at you with a depth that feels almost shocking after so much cool behavior. The emotional charge can be strong because it is not random. It is the result of every moment your silence forced them to sit with what they kept trying not to feel. Every time you did not send that extra message. Every night you did not ask if they were okay, just to keep the bond alive. Every moment you chose self-respect over panic. Every second you held your ground instead of chasing. All of it added pressure to a part of them that wanted control without vulnerability. And now that sealed place is beginning to crack. They can no longer manage the bond through distance as easily as before. They feel the truth more directly now. They care more than they wanted to admit. They feel more than they planned to feel. And if they step forward with strong emotion, do not let it throw you off balance. This is the test. Not whether they can feel intensely for a moment, but whether they can turn that intensity into steady action, honest effort, and real emotional presence over time. Because real change is never only in the dramatic moment, it is in what follows. It is in whether they continue showing up after the fear settles. It is in whether their warmth becomes stable instead of temporary. It is in whether their desire becomes responsibility. Anyone can have a sudden emotional surge. Anyone can feel panic when they think they are losing something, but not everyone can build a healthier pattern after that realization. So when they come back with more passion, more honesty, more urgency, your role is not to reward the moment by abandoning your center. Your role is to stay grounded enough to see clearly. Respond, but do not overextend. Be open, but keep your boundaries. Let them experience closeness without handing them the old version of you that did all the work alone. This matters more than people realize, because if you rush to secure the feeling, the pattern can reset. But if you stay steady, they are forced to meet you in a new way, and in that new space, something stronger can grow, something more balanced, something built on mutual effort instead of one person chasing and one person hiding. And if that growth does not happen, then the silence still gave you something powerful. It showed you that you can survive the quiet without losing yourself. There is something deeply attractive about someone who can sit in silence without falling apart, someone who does not panic every time energy shifts, someone who stops begging to be chosen and starts living from self-respect. That kind of steadiness changes the whole atmosphere. They were used to reactions, used to testing the bond by pulling away and watching you come closer, used to measuring their importance by how fast you chased. But now the old method no longer works, and when old patterns stop working, hidden emotion begins to rise. They may not understand it at first, they just know you feel different now, stronger, calmer, less available to emotional chaos, and that difference can make them lean in hard. Suddenly your attention is not something they can assume. Your affection is not something they can casually collect without giving anything real back. They feel the shift in power, and more than power, they feel the shift in truth. You are no longer trying to hold them tightly. You are no longer trying to force the bond into existence. You are allowing reality to speak, and reality can be louder than any confrontation. It tells them, maybe this person really can leave. Maybe I cannot keep hiding forever. Maybe what I feel is bigger than I wanted to believe. And once that thought takes root, it can keep growing until it changes the way they move toward you. If you are in that quiet stage right now, do not assume emptiness. Do not assume your silence has no effect. Under the surface, a struggle may be happening that you cannot yet see. Pride fighting longing, control fighting vulnerability, habit fighting truth. The stillness can feel cruel when you are the one living through it, but stillness often reveals what noise keeps hidden. This is why patience matters here, not passive waiting, not putting your whole life on hold. Real patience. The kind that keeps you moving, healing, growing, and refusing to abandon yourself just because someone else is confused. That is what makes your energy so powerful now. You are not standing still in pain, hoping for rescue. You are becoming more centered, more whole, more difficult to access through the old patterns, and that creates a mirror for them. It forces them to face what they feel without the comfort of your constant reassurance. This part is intense, so hear me clearly. The point is not to sit around hoping for an explosion. The point is to stop overgiving and let reality do its work. If they truly care, that truth will start showing in how they move. If they do not, your silence will still protect your peace and reveal what their distance really meant. And when that next stage comes, it often goes deeper than attraction. It becomes hunger, not only physical hunger, emotional hunger, the kind that grows when someone realizes they may have underestimated your place in their life. At first, they tried to reduce it, ignore it, explain it away, distract themselves from it, but your absence kept giving it room. Your calm kept making it louder. Now they are not just missing your attention, they are facing the fact that you mattered more than they wanted to admit. That realization has weight, because once they accept your value, they also have to accept the risk of losing you, and that risk can make them act differently. Their communication becomes more thoughtful, less random, less careless. There is meaning behind their words now, a pause before the message, a softness where there used to be distance, a little more honesty, a little less defense. They may still not say everything directly. People like this rarely do at first, but you can feel the tension changing. It becomes less about staying safe and more about trying to reconnect. They may take small emotional risks they never took before, mentioning fear, admitting distance, hinting at regret, offering care in ways that are subtle but new. And if you stay grounded, you will see the difference between performance and real emotional movement. This is why your response matters so much now, not because you need to control the outcome, but because the way you hold yourself decides whether the new energy becomes something real or slips back into the old cycle. If you melt the second they return, they learn that a little intensity is enough to reopen the same pattern. But if you stay warm and steady, they must rise to meet you. They must keep showing up. They must turn feeling into action. They must learn that access to your heart is no longer guaranteed by your fear of losing them. It is earned through consistency, honesty, and care. And that is where the deepest shift happens, because for the first time they begin to understand that your silence was not rejection. It was alignment. It was the moment you stopped carrying both sides of the connection. It was the moment you chose dignity over desperation. And dignity has a strange power. It makes your absence louder. It makes your presence more meaningful. It makes the other person feel the full emotional shape of what they almost let slip away. So if they come forward now, let them come all the way. Let them show whether this hunger becomes devotion, whether this desire becomes real effort, whether this moment becomes a new pattern instead of a temporary storm. That is how you protect your heart without closing it. That is how you stay open without losing your center. So stay grounded, stay calm, let the silence do what noise could never do. Let it reveal, let it expose, let it bring hidden feelings to the surface without you forcing a single thing. If there is something real inside them, this quiet will touch it. It will press on the places they kept numb. It will make the truth harder to avoid. And when that truth finally breaks through, it will not feel small, it will not feel casual, it will not feel like the half-hearted effort you once accepted just to keep the connection alive. It will feel charged, focused, different. You will sense it in the way they look at you, in the way they speak, in the effort behind their actions, in the emotional weight they can no longer hide. And if that moment comes, remember everything the silence taught you. Remember your strength. Remember your boundaries. Remember how much peace you gained when you stopped chasing what would not come freely. Because the real power was never in making someone want you. The real power was in becoming so centered that you no longer needed to abandon yourself to keep a bond alive. And that is the part nobody can take from you. If they rise, let them rise with truth. If they return, let them return with consistency. And if they do not, you still win, because the silence already rebuilt the part of you that forgot your own worth.